This is a make or miss league.
It's a make or miss league.
Make, miss.
It's a make or miss league.
It's a make or miss league.
Make history. Ben Simmons posted some pics of the new Sixers throwbacks for next season. And also, the Grizzlies are going to throw back to their original Vancouver jerseys. And court, okay? Dave, what other throwbacks would you like to see?
Two come to mind immediately. Those old Bulls with the pinstripes of the 72 and 10 era. Well, I do love these Raptors ones as well.
So
that's the Suns with the starburst. The Suns, the black with the starburst is also
black with the starburst is cool. Though Vince Carter, I did summer league games with him, says that those Raptors jerseys look cool now, but people back then didn't necessarily love them as much. So it's pretty funny how that works. Miss paydays. Remember when Jordan Crawford dunked on LeBron in the summer of 2009? Well, according to Crawford, Nike organizers said they'd give someone $500 if they dunked on LeBron, and they never paid Crawford. Ramona, if this is true, does Nike need to pay up?
Yes. Come on now. It's like, what, $500?
And interest at this point.
That's right.
They can afford it.
Yeah.
And he needs it too, because Jordan Crawford played for Boeheim's Army and the TBT. Didn't get the $2 million. Someone pay the man. Someone
pay that man his money. Pay that man his money. All right, make New York City Suckers. Yesterday was the 8-year anniversary of KD dropping 66 points at Rucker Park. Dave, was this the best thing to come out of the lockout that year?
The best thing is probably the old Nike T-shirt that says "Basketball Never Stops" that I still have in my dresser that I wear. Yeah. That's the best thing. Second best thing is this, and the fact that shot was replicated in the NBA Finals by him in the left wing in the 17 Finals and the 18 Finals. Just makes that shot even more legendary.
How are we not talking about the rap video that he did with LeBron James during that?
There is that, and there was also a game that LeBron organized in Miami where literally every star played in like a small college gym. Miss explanations. Here's Amari Spellman throwing a lob to someone, maybe jumping off a trampoline to get way up there.
Oh my
Ramona, what is going on here?
I don't know. It's like Cirque du Soleil or something. It's amazing.
Yeah, it looks like he's dropped from the ceiling. I love it. The angle is perfect.
Is this like mascot camp, though? Is that how they practice?
Maybe. Yeah, that might be true. That maybe is mascot camp.
Yeah, where's Jason Richardson? We were in a time
That's true. Excellent point. Jason Richardson probably, maybe Bronny, like someone there. Could be anything. All right, next, make buckets. Melo still doing his thing in the Black Ops gym. Dave, does anyone ever actually miss in this gym?
No, and I'm waiting for my invite because I just want to go in there and have a perfect shooting day. I mean, it's, again, like that last video, good angle. Here, it's just good editing. You only see the mix.
Yeah. Mama, what do you think? How many jump?
I am more of a pass-first point guard.
Okay. Cool. I got you. I could go in there. Fourth quarter George. That was the nickname. All right.
Okay. Never heard that one.
There you go. Just saying. All right. Well,
three quarters.
I don't play basketball anymore. I'm 41 years old. That's it. Well, those days are done. All right. Well, Melo's one-on-one interview with Stephen A. Smith on First Take this morning is the story of the day. During the conversation, Anthony made it clear that he still wants to play and he still has plenty to offer. Take a listen.
If you were on a basketball team, one of these championship contenders, what would we see from Carmelo Anthony?
Leadership in the locker room, on the court, on the bench. Places that I've never had issues with before, right? This is what I bring to a team. On top of me being confident enough in my game to still be able to deliver something on the court.
Carmelo hasn't played in the NBA since November of last year. He said that winning a title is still his overall goal, but he just wants to play. So, Ramona, it was a very candid conversation he had with Stephen A. Did Melo help or hurt his chances at a comeback?
I actually think he helped his chances. He sounded humble. He sounded like he understood that he needed to play a certain role if he was going to get a shot in the NBA. I just, every time I think about where Melo might land, every time I think about the situation, I come back to two things. He could be at USA Basketball next week, right? He has this most decorated Olympian that we've had in the USA Basketball program. It doesn't seem like an invitation was forthcoming. There was a few talks, but it doesn't seem like that happened for a number of reasons. But it feels like a real missed opportunity. I mean, Landry Shamet is turning down invitations.
Right.
Why is Melo not there? I know it's about building for the future for USA basketball. Maybe he's not a part of their future, but for somebody who's done as much for that basketball team and been as committed to USA basketball, that would have been a great opportunity for him. The other opportunity, though, is his two best friends in the league who are still in the league, Chris Paul and LeBron James. It didn't work out with Chris Paul in Houston last year, and LeBron James had an opportunity if he wanted to put his foot down to say, I would like Melo on my team either last year or this year, and that hasn't happened. So I think that's fairly telling because of where he is in his career. At some points, you do need a friend to give you that opportunity or to push for you to have that, and so far that hasn't happened.
I think it helps him overall because he addressed the elephant in the room. As you said, he carried himself in a way that was, I recognize where I am right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not Carmelo Anthony superstar. I'm not the guy saying that I'm better than 60 or 70% of the league like my trainer did. I'm a guy saying, man, I just love playing. You find me in a gym every day anyway. Put an NBA jersey back on me, and I'm going to contribute to your team with the love of the game. Now, maybe some people won't like it because it's not the way things are really done. You don't kind of lobby for a job on national television. You know, there's calls made by your agent. Yeah. But I don't think it will necessarily hurt him. What I want to know, though, we're talking about the Houston experiment gone wrong, and it's all about what Carmelo did wrong, how he didn't fit. What about the front office that spent the summer last year figuring out whether he's going to work or not, talked to Carmelo and his representatives, bring him in, and then Daryl Morey, after 10 games, according to Carmelo, says, hey, we don't need you anymore. It's not working out. What about that managerial style of Daryl Morey? I'm just very curious why there's not more talk about that approach by him.
I think this is the first time I've heard him say that it was not mutual, because at the time the reporting on this and the discussion on this was that they worked something out and there was a mutual conversation about this, that he understood it wasn't working out as well. But I'll bring it back to this, and this isn't just to defend Daryl or that managerial style, but Daryl Morey's not going to do anything without a sign-off from James Harden and Chris Paul. I mean, in a situation like this, on a player that they're as close to and as committed to as both of them had been.
Carmelo said he looked Chris Paul in the eye in his hotel room at 1 a.m, and Chris Paul said, I knew nothing about this.
Okay, wait. Before we move on, let me ask you this. I think you do make an interesting point, Dave, because in those 10 games, and granted, that's a small sample size, okay? Over half his shots were three-point shots, which is what the Rockets would want in that scenario. But so I get where he's like, I'm doing what you're telling me to do, and it's not working out. But the numbers weren't great, right? Again, small sample size, but the numbers weren't great. Oklahoma City, the numbers weren't great. He wants to play. And he had talked to Stephen A. about, man, I can't be one of the top 9 guys in this rotation, was his conversation with Morey. So let me ask you this. Do you think he is a top 9 or 10 guy in a rotation, or is he now maybe a 10, 11, 12, 13, 15th man on the roster? Like, where is he as far as his game's concerned?
So let's go back.
And is he willing
Tracy
to be
McGrady, who's a host on this show
12
all
or
the time,
13th guy?
on this show. Tracy McGrady, do you remember him on the Spurs when they won a title?
Yes.
2014? You actually remember him? Because he was there and he didn't actually play in the finals. He was on that team. Yeah. And I think that's probably what we're talking about with Carmelo right now, is that he gets to be on the team. He'll maybe have a few games here and there where he'll contribute, but this is like maybe not even that Vince Carter role. Right. Maybe, like, is he that role? Like,
and I think that's the fair question, because he told Stephen A. that I've internalized the idea of coming off the bench, and I can do that.
Yeah, and let's hear from him. Let's actually hear what he said to Stephen A. about the experience in Houston. Let's hear from him.
He came in and he was just like, look, basically your service is no longer needed. And I'm like, hold on, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, nah, things just not working out, and you got to figure out something to do. I'm like, how the hell I'm gonna figure something out to do? I got to tomorrow. He told me I wasn't gonna make the rotation. I'm like, I can't make a 9-man rotation. That's what you're trying to tell me? Part of my language, I felt like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, to sit there across from the GM president, the GM of the team, and him tell you, listen, your services are no longer needed. That was an ego hit. That was a pride hit. Like, I felt like I started questioning myself after that. Like, damn, can I still do this? What did I do? Like I asked him that, what did I do? Oh, you didn't do anything. It's just not working out.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you think if he says he wants to play, is he willing to be a guy that maybe plays some nights, doesn't play other nights, be the 12th man, 11th man on the roster? Because that's different than being in the rotation. Like, Dave, we'll start with you.
Yeah, and that's what any team, and there's only about 20 open roster spots right now in the league, and maybe you cut that in half because some teams strategically keep one open because they want to have a chance to have some leverage in case something happens, an injury or something like that. That team would have to be convinced that he'd be okay with that. And if he says, I got my Black Ops gym, I'm there every day for the love of the game, well, maybe his love of the game will be DMPs, but playing 3-on-3 on the court before an actual NBA game. I think he'll have to do some job convincing a team that would be enough for him, and you won't have, the squeaky wheel one in the grease in the locker room.
I mean, sometimes you're so big that as a star, I mean, like he hasn't been in the league for a while and he can still have a prime spot on First Take and do an interview that leads our show, right? And this is how big a star he is, which is also something that people have to consider in the league of when you bring him in. Like he's so big, he may not fit in a 10th or 11th or 12th man role unless he becomes almost like you don't even talk about him anymore, unless it becomes less of a story. I think the one team, though, that we keep coming back to is, and it's a fit from a nostalgic standpoint, but maybe not where they are as a team, is the New York Knicks.
Okay.
This is where he spent, or even the Denver Nuggets. Those are the two teams that he spent the majority of his career with, where he has deep roots. I did some checking, and I know that there's a few things talked about with the Knicks in the past of whether they would have an interest in bringing him back. Look, the Knicks are not about veterans right now. They have young players that they're trying to bring along, and if you bring Melo back, that changes the entire dynamic. But I asked a very pointed question of some folks there. Is that bridge burned? Because he certainly didn't leave on great terms, right? That was not a healthy relationship towards the end of his tenure there. The bridge is not burned. And in fact, one person described it as he's still pretty well liked in New York. Jim Dolan doesn't have a bone to pick with him. He feels good about his relationship with Melo. And so I think if that one day aligns with where they are as a franchise, I could see a scenario where the same kind of way that work out in Cleveland.
I mean, you mentioned Denver. Bobby Marks, who works for us, does a great job, did some research. If Denver was to sign him, it makes them a tax team. So that could be prohibitive.
Right.
But you look at some of the teams, Dallas has a spot open. What do we know about? Mark Cuban has brought in a ton of, big star-type players and kind of worried about figuring it out later.
Right.
Just bring him in. And
he brought in Vince a number of years ago. He had a big shot in the playoffs.
Yeah. And with that team that they have, obviously they had the youth in Kristaps and Luka Doncic. But you lose a veteran like Wesley Matthews, and maybe, obviously you lose a major veteran, Dirk Nowitzki. Maybe that could be a fit. I'm not reporting it, just as I look at the list of teams that are out there.
Yeah, Portland was a team that was interested in him before there's a few trades ago, right?
Yeah. Right.
But I think this is what you talk about in life, really, where there are times when you're at the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, and when you're down low, like Melo is right now, you look to people who you have some equity with. You look to people who you have long-standing relationships with. I mentioned Team USA. I mentioned LeBron James. I mentioned Chris Paul. You mentioned the Denver Nuggets, the New York Knicks. I think that's where you have to start in terms of people who have an incentive to help you out of this situation.
Right, no doubt. All right, we got to take a break. But when we come back, Kyle Kuzma says not everybody is cut out to be a Laker. Is that BS or real talk? We'll discuss that and much more. Stick around here on The Jump.
Don't get mad. Get E-Trade, dog.
I am going to take you to a place no tourist would ever find in a million years. It's our chance of a lifetime.